all, Sarah here. So I'm out in the greenhouse. It's a little sunny out, which is kind of funny because it's been like snowy and rainy, but it's sunny out right at the moment. I just wanted to come out and check on the vegetables. Those lettuce that the kids planted from food scraps are starting to get some little leaves. This one already had some, but it's looking pretty healthy. Some of these that didn't have any are starting to get them, so that's exciting. Our lettuce seeds we planted aren't coming up yet, but hopefully soon. And this is a tray of lettuce we just had in our windowsill in the house, and we brought it out here. Celery's looking good still. Looking healthy. These are food scraps as well. Tomato mat planted out here is still alive. She still looks good. Maybe a little bit weaker than our other tomatoes, but the ground is pretty moist. It did get down to 21 degrees in here last night, so I thought that was going to take her out, but so far so good. Part of that was Matt had her covered up with the tarp. And our carrot seeds, I don't see, ooh, there's a little worm. Did you see? Our carrot seeds aren't germinating, and our spinach isn't coming up yet either. Matt went ahead and brought a tray of our tomatoes. We don't have a lot of windows in the house that face the sun, so he brought some of the tomatoes that couldn't get sunshine in the house out here just for during the day. Also brought our little cabbages out here. They're looking kind of spindly, so I'm a little nervous about them. I'm going to give them some water. Our cabbage is what I wanted to talk about today. Our plants are looking a little spindly and they're really close together, so I'm going to have to do some research on what exactly to do about that. We have never started cabbage from seed before, so this is kind of all new to us. If you have any tips or advice, please leave a comment down below because we'd love to know more. Today I am making some supper with some odds and ends from the freezer and fridge, and what I'm going to be making is with some cabbage from last year's garden. Snow is starting to melt. Chickens are outside, which is good. Alright, so when it comes to cabbage, fresh cabbage is great. Coleslaw, wonderful, right? Growing up, I never really liked coleslaw, but it made a huge difference as soon as we were growing our own cabbage and making our own coleslaw. Another great way to use up cabbage is making sauerkraut, which we have not mastered yet, but I think I'm going to pull out my canning cookbook later when our cabbage is in and give it a try this year. Some other things we do with our cabbage is preserving it so we can use it throughout the year. We saved our cabbage from the last garden in two ways, and one way was we went ahead and we dehydrated our cabbage, and so I just have it in a jar. I did not suck the air out in any way, and they're just kind of these little crunchy pieces now. So I went ahead and I dehydrated it. I had to make sure all the moisture was out before I jarred it up. I know this is at least a head of cabbage. I'm not quite sure. Another way we like to eat cabbage is we like to fry it. So another way I preserved my cabbage is I went ahead and froze it. And this is just in a food saver bag. And to be honest, it would make a lot more sense to chop it up first and then freeze it. But I don't know if you are like me, when the garden is coming into season, you're so busy collecting all this food and trying to use it or preserve it quick before it goes bad, that anything that's going to save me a little time or energy in that moment is what's most important. So I actually just go ahead and I chop my cabbage in half, and then I lay it flat and freeze it, and I'm able to suck most of the moisture out of it this way. So this is what I'm using today for supper. It's our very last cabbage from last year besides what we have left of dehydrated. And what I like to do with both of these is to make just kind of an Asian inspired dish. So that's what I'm making today. While that's heating up, I'm going to go ahead and get some meat out for my dish. We like to use ground turkey a lot when we're making this. But today I'm using some ground beef because we do not have any ground turkey, so we use what we have. We are so fortunate that my brother and sister-in-law raise grass-fed beef. All right, I'm gonna let that cook a little bit. I think right now there are so many people who are looking at ways to just preserve food and find new ways to use it. I think one of the coolest skill sets you can have right now with everything going on is being able to open your fridge, your freezer, your pantry, and being able to just create something with what you already have. So I am not somebody who follows a recipe. I do typically follow recipes for baking, but even with them, I'm known to kind of fudge things. If I don't want to use an ingredient or I don't have an ingredient, I don't just knock out the recipe, or I don't just count off the recipe. I just try to find a way to make it. And even if it's not great, the worst that happens is you tried it and it didn't work and you'll never make that again. But you might stumble across something really cool. I know one of my favorite bread recipes calls for milk in the recipe, and one day I just didn't have enough milk to make it, and I'm like, I wonder what'll happen if I just use water. And it literally, I could not tell the difference in the bread I made with the milk and the bread I made with water. And I was like, why am I using milk if water will do the same thing? If you're trying to avoid the store, you just want to be able to use what you have. And as far as fresh ingredients go, we don't have a lot on hand right now. I have 2 carrots left. 2. I planted carrots, but they won't be in for a while. So 2 carrots it is. So I went ahead and I peeled my carrots and put them in our chicken bucket to give straight to our chickens. You could go ahead and save these, use them for broth right away. You could start cooking them to make some broth. You can throw them in a freezer bag. Go ahead and add it to broth when you have time to make broth. It will make a flavorful broth. These carrots, they were pretty cheap, not organic. Not really the nicest looking carrots. They've been in the fridge for a while. It's been a few weeks since we've been to the store. They've been in the fridge a while. So I'm gonna go ahead and just give them to the chickens because they will love them and I don't want to use them. Around to the idea that giving our chickens our scraps is okay, and when the garden starts coming in, that's going to play even more of a role. There are so many things I am learning now about the tops of vegetables. I am really excited to try. I found a pesto recipe using the tops of carrots, and I already make pesto using our basil, and I make pesto using our cilantro as well. But I'm interested to try the tops of the carrots. And then I kind of chuckled to myself because I'm like, that's the only part of the carrot from the garden you would give the chickens. Starting to burn to the pan a little bit. Once that water gets heated up, it'll help cook our carrots a little bit. Have this just in the pan though. carrots and meat are cooking, I'm gonna cut up an onion. Again, it's all about what you have. If you have an onion, use it, great. I'm using a red onion. I have red and white and some green onions in the freezer from last year's garden, but it's all about using what you have. If you don't like onion, don't use onion. If you don't have onion, what about onion powder? When my meat is cooked and I'm kind of cooking up my veggies, I like to season the meat as well. And so I already added some onion and garlic, which is going to help a ton. And then I'm going to add a little bit of black pepper. I'm going to add the tiniest amount here of cayenne pepper. If you love onion, add more onion. If you love garlic, add more garlic. Don't have garlic, add garlic powder. Don't have that, try any of your random seasonings you probably already have. This is just like a generic original seasoning. And in the ingredients, it's onion and garlic. I know this one has some garlic in it too. Just use what you have. You'll be surprised. You might be able to make something you weren't expecting, and that's okay. Now, if you wanted to use fresh cabbage to do this, you certainly can, and it's not going to have as much water content as that frozen cabbage. So you might need to add a little bit more water than you otherwise would. And if you wanted to use the dehydrated cabbage, you can do that. To rehydrate vegetables, you just want to add them to some boiling water. So you can either do that on the side, or you could go ahead and add enough water in your dish that it gets to the point of boiling and rehydrating your cabbage. So our food is all cooked, and if you like it like this, you can go ahead and eat it like this with crackers or right from the fork. I like to add a little bit of sauce. We have not been to the store very much, so my sauce options are kind of limited. I have some salad dressings and soy sauce, lemon juice, apple cider vinegar, and then an Asian sauce. This one's a little bit spicy, so I don't want to add too much of that. Go ahead and add some soy sauce. I did not add any salt while I was cooking, knowing I would probably add some sauce. Vinegar pairs really well with cabbage. As we know from sauerkraut, so I'm going to add just a tiny bit of apple cider vinegar. If you wanted to add any sort of like beef or chicken broth to this, that would be really good as well. A little bit of this sauce. It's kind of spicy, and I already added that cayenne, so I don't want to add too much. I think it's ready. I hope you enjoyed cooking with me, and remember to check the back of your pantry, check the depths of your freezer, and the back of that fridge, because you may find some things you can use for supper tonight. Glad you got to see me again. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe.